Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. My name is Brooke Gentile. I'm the Executive Director of the Organic Association of Kentucky, and I'm going to just share a brief welcome and a couple overview points before we get started with our keynote speakers today. I'll be talking later today at the end of lunch to share a bit more in depth about some of Oak's new and expanded programs as well. So don't fret, more information to come then. But first, I just want to share that this is my personal 7th annual Oak Conference, and it's incredible to see how they've, yeah, it's, it is, each one is its own unique journey, and they are all different, but you all are the constant. So it is just an incredible honor to be here with all of you today. So this is actually the 14th annual Oak Conference. So welcome to this event this year. The theme this year is Advancing Organics in Kentucky, Adopting Practices, Increasing Resilience, and Strengthening Systems. And this really speaks to where we're at together in this moment in time of this agricultural journey. So we are thrilled for the conversations that started unfolding yesterday during the pre-conference workshops and the learnings that are well underway today already, and really excited for tomorrow to come. So it's a joy to see all of you farmers, ag professionals, partners, food system change makers in the room today, and all of you friends. Every day I'm incredibly inspired by the deep work that you do and the energy and commitment you bring to the work on your farms and in your communities. This work and the resources you share with your community and your fellow farmers, and being thoughtful and innovative stewards of the land every day, it's truly inspiring, and what makes this work for me personally so rewarding but energizing for all of us together. And you know, choosing organic farming practices is a commitment to both our planet's health and our community's well-being, but also to our future generations' prosperity. And a lot of you carry that with you every day, and that is also deeply inspiring. So, as you join in the learning and discussions over the next 2 days, I invite you to hone those organic management strategies, learn what others are trialing in their fields, tell us what you need now. Yes, that means filling out those surveys. I know, but please let us know, either in direct conversation or in-depth detail in those survey responses, because it informs everything we do. And I'm going to share slides so you can QR code those, and there are QR codes in your print program, so you can actually do those surveys on your own time. Anyways, I encourage you to tell us what you need now and tell us what you want in the future. Dream with us, dream together. We can do this. So talk to that special person. I challenge you, have those conversations while you're here now together, so that you can get the resource or share that experience or that equipment modification, whatever it is you've been waiting for. Have those conversations here today and follow up with those people when we leave here, right? So when you forge those new and deeper connections with your fellow farmers and industry experts and organizations working towards all of these common goals, that's the beauty of conference. You get to take those relationships back to your farm with you and hold those close through the season and reach out when you need to. There are a lot of us here, and this feels amazing in this room to be all together. And I want you to feel that energy and excitement when you're back home on your own farms, and when maybe we feel like we're a little more disconnected out there in the world. So by working together, we can amplify this impact, grow new markets, share our knowledge, and innovate to shape the solutions we want and need together. So it's crucial to recognize that that in growing lasting solutions in a system that doesn't quite work really well all the time, that's hard, deep, long, never-ending work sometimes. And as we embark on this journey, we're doing it together, and there's a lot of resilience in that togetherness. So as farmers, you're not just stewards of the land, but you're leaders in this community. Oak was founded by farmers. We do what farmers want and need all the time, right? And you're the architects of the change that we can build together. And all you partners and ag professionals, researchers, and community members, your knowledge and resources and advocacy and insights help propel the movement and sustain this growth as well. So together, everyone in this room, our collective experiences, insights, innovations, they're invaluable and, dare I say, powerful, right? And together we're growing what we need for an abundant and thriving future. So let this conference be a celebration of this shared commitment to advancing organic agriculture, to expanding our practices, to embracing a platform of collaboration and finding those resources and inspiration for the challenges and, yes, the celebrations that lie ahead. So we're stronger together, and I'm just really grateful to be on this journey with all of you all. So with that, just a big thank you for being here, and thank you for your families for supporting you in your journey and for being here. And yeah, if I could hug all of you at once, I would, if you're huggers, but you know. I really wanted to just share the intention for how we thought of organizing conference, how we hold conference as a really special place for all of us to be together. And we're able to be together actually with a lot of support from our community, a lot of thought and collaboration from a network of people to develop the programming, but also a lot of financial support and ongoing, enduring support from year to year from our sponsors. So our dear, dear sponsors, collaborators, scholarship partners, program partners, it takes a village to make this magic happen. So our enduring thanks and gratitude for making this 3-day gathering possible. We're so grateful. And to Kentucky State University, an incredible partner from the very beginning, before Oak even existed as Oak, a long-term partner. We're just so grateful for your ongoing collaboration and support in this journey, from collaborating on projects to being the host of this event last year and this year, to the audiovisual staff who is everywhere making the magic happen. And I do want to let you all know that all the sessions are recorded with their magic and will be available in the next few weeks to everyone. So let's just, can we do a little... I know it seems seamless, and it's because they are highly skilled, and it is just such a gift for all of us. So it is with abundant gratitude that we say thank you. And also to the KSU staff that is on site behind the scenes, moving coffee and refilling waters and tidying everything up. It's also invisible magic that's happening that is a lot of effort, and we're just so grateful. And you know, we are sold out. We are glad you're here. It does mean that there are a lot of folks that weren't able to be here. We have a long waiting list. We're grateful to be in this space, and so we know it's a little snug sometimes, but it's just a beautiful learning laboratory to be on this farm. And again, so grateful for this beautiful venue. So a little bit later during lunch, you'll hear from Dr. Tope about the land grant program and some special resources that they have available. So he wasn't able to be here right now. You'll hear from him a little bit later during lunch. Okay, how am I doing on time? Okay, great. So I did mention we love your feedback. When you're in session, you have those individual survey cards. We love those for those particular sessions. If you have huge dreams about what you would like to see at Conference 2025 and you can't fit it on that tiny session, and or you have feedback about the conference overall, we really want everyone to fill out this survey too. There's a QR code in your program so you can get it, and you'll get it over email from us as well. Our conference this year is supported by USDA Organic Research and Extension Initiative grant, which is incredible. It gives us resources to bring speakers and offer low price registration and an abundance of scholarships. And so we're really grateful for the support from USDA on that. As part of that, we really have to work on providing feedback and participant insights and learnings during this event. So please let us know what you love and what you'd love to see next year. Also during this event, if you attended the session that was in this room just previously, it was on organic small grains and what we can be looking at, what the industry needs in Kentucky in this space. If you're interested in small grains and were in that session, awesome. If you weren't in that session, you can catch the recording, but also please take a look at this survey. It's really for anyone that is currently growing organic small grains or interested in growing small grains. We would love to hear from you. By February 9th, it will close. So that is important to you. We are also participating in Appalachian Regional Commission project with 12 partners across 6 states, and we're looking at agroforestry, non-timber forest products, forest farming. If you are interested or currently growing any of these products, tell us about it. This is a 1-year project where we're really doing a landscape analysis about what the needs are in Kentucky. And we will be making plans for the next 5 years based on what we hear through conversation and survey results. So if this is of interest to you, please take a moment. This is also in your program. And also please catch the Saturday session on agroforestry and forest farming for more details. Okay, it's a Farm Bill year. It's a really big deal. I'm not going to talk about the details so much. I just couldn't fit it in later in the day. If you are interested in learning more about the Farm Bill and how you can talk to your representatives about what you would like to see in this massive piece of 5-year legislation, then please talk to me at any point today. I serve on the Organic Farmers Association Governing Council. I'll be going to DC in early March to talk with our representatives. I'd love to take some of your stories and questions and priorities to those meetings. So please email me, talk to me, text me, whatever. I'm here obviously all day and love to talk with you sometime before March 1st if you're interested in that. And also, I want to just say I'm not an expert in this role at all. So I really look to these partner organizations who've been doing this work for a long, deep time in the policy space. And I'm learning a lot. So if you are interested to learn more, I really recommend that you reach out to these folks as well. So with that, I just want to say I'm so grateful for all of you and for being here today. And I'm really excited to pass the mic to Jenny Howard-Owen, who has organized all the details of this massive event. So let's just give her a quick round of applause. I have to say, you know, in 2018, Jenny's first day at Oak was the first day of conference. That's sort of how we roll as a small nonprofit. And we've come a long way since then. So Jenny's going to introduce our keynote speakers, and yeah, really excited.
Awesome. Thanks. I don't know why she makes me blush every time I'm getting up to the microphone. Like, how embarrassing. Gosh, she's my boss. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all for being here. That's always the most important thing that I have to say when I'm up here. Farmers, farmer friends, all of you, you're magic. You make such magic things happen in your community. And my work is trying to learn from all of those surveys that you might have heard about once or twice, and we'll continue to hear about, to look at all of the feedback from all of you and to hear your voice in my ears when I'm looking at YouTube and all of the places that I glean information of who's going to be at this podium next. Year to year, with Shannon's help now, we are working on that with a committee and with all of your input in that decision making. So please keep it coming. It's not an easy job to figure out who to put in the keynote role, right? Like, it's the most beautiful part of my job, and really the hardest. It's the part that wakes me up in the middle of the night the most. And when I'm looking for farmers, people in the food and farming system who are making a difference in addition to feeding their community or building the local food system or empowering others to do any of that in some way, shape, or form, it's like some of them just keep rising to the top a little more than others, and Some of them show up as invited speakers, some of them make it to the keynote podium. Especially when they are farmers of color in an industry that has put up a lot of walls for those folks. It's especially important for us in our organization, in our community, in our daily lives to recognize that and to continue to bring that conversation to the microphone. So when I see all of those pieces together, some of them all fit together, some of them not. In this particular story, it did. This is a story of people who are driven by their values to be a better presence in the world, to do better for their community. And like many of you, you'll find something that you can relate to, everybody in here. They started small. They trusted the experience that they believed in. They continued to try new things and continue to do so. They accepted help to make it happen. And they've leaned on community over and over and over again. And so this is a story of community, of rural success, of neighborhood scale movement, and production farmer cooperatives, and food as medicine, and so much more. And if you haven't heard any bit of that speaks to you already, I guarantee that Ardis and Henry Crews will say something that does. I am honored to have them here in Kentucky, all the way from North Carolina, and I welcome them. After I do something that I should have done first, which is the boring housekeeping part, we are going to ask you to give your audience questions in the form of this app, Slido. So if you have a phone that knows how to use a QR code, then please aim it at this QR code now. This is the way you can add your audience questions during this keynote, and you will be able to add those questions and also see the questions of the rest of the audience. And this is the most magical part. You can then up or down vote them. Up is this way, down is that. On the screen, it's super simple. If you don't have a phone or don't know how to make it read a QR code, we have people in the room. Well, those people kind of stand up. They're a handful of KSU helpers out there and Oak staff helpers, and they will be around, and they have phones, and they know how to make the QR code happen. And so if you'll just like wave at them or stand up and get their attention, we'll make sure your voice is added to this so that we can get the general audience feeling of what is, what's rising to the top. So I'm sorry that I put that housekeeping in after the other part, because I really wanted to let you know that Ardis and Henry are here, and welcome to the stage, Ardis and Henry. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, members and friends of the Mighty Oak. We are so happy to be here. We're still trying to figure out how we got here. And it's so interesting that Jenny and the staff of Oak had the nerve to risk putting us behind a microphone.
Two of them.
I don't know about that. Now, we had an absolutely wonderful PowerPoint that our handler, we called him Greg Heshbeth, one of our young staff people, prepared for us. But he thought about it, and he says, they old and crazy. They're going to mess up trying to go through a PowerPoint, so you're just going to see some pictures, okay? And we're just going to wing it.
I'm going to be coordinating, so don't worry about that.
My name is Ardis Crews, and this is Henry Crews. And I'm going to need you all's help and your forgiveness. I'm going to tell you right up front, he's old. And it rubs off on me. And so just bear with us. We do it how we do it. We just hope that you accept it. Well, thank you so much, Jenny and staff, for inviting us.
Yeah, she's going to take the mic anyway. Green Rural Redevelopment organization is our not-for-profit organization. And I think it's very important to say that because everybody calls it GROW, Green Rural Redevelopment Organization. And we came about 16 years ago. We spent 30 years in Chicago. I'm from North Carolina, and she's from North Carolina. And, oh, okay.
Thank you. Ladies, it's always good to have your own. I can speak over him.
Take away from it, see? So I can walk around with this now. So we about 16 years ago, see that's the boss. See how she does, Miss Gillette. About 16 years ago, we decided to, normally our daughter passed, and we decided to bury her in North Carolina. And we were at the age where, she was at the age where she needed to retire. I'd already retired a couple of years before that. And we decided to come back home. So we were spending our winters in North Carolina and our summers in Chicago.
And you know why? The mighty wind.
So we enjoyed doing that. But after about 2014, we decided to formally come home. And we had developed our community-based organization. And it was all about developing housing. You know, I've been traveling every other month to Africa, and we did housing in Africa, and we talked about coming home, and we were going to redevelop all of our community, the community that I lived in.
Don't lose your thought, Crews. That picture you're looking at right there?
Is that it?
That's the Crews farm, you all.
All right.
That was before it happened.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. That was the land. And one of the concerns we had was this empty lot that's been in our family for almost 100 years old, 100 years. And they didn't know what to do with that lot. And it was my feeling that if we built houses, all the houses that we own around that empty lot, I just had aesthetically, if I could put a greenhouse there. Now, I didn't have any idea of farming or anything. I just thought that a greenhouse would fit perfect in that empty lot that just sat there.
He had no idea of putting anything in the greenhouse.
It was just aesthetic.
He just wanted a greenhouse.
It looked good in that spot. And I thought as we developed housing that would work. Well, one of the problems we had was, what started one day when Ardis was going to fix a sandwich, and I needed some tomatoes. And I went to the grocery store to get some tomatoes. Let's say this first, that I'm business. Everything about me is business, and she's more.
And I'm deep.
Yeah. And so I went to the grocery store, and they were selling tomatoes for $1 a piece. And I just couldn't fathom paying $1 for a tomato. And so I knew that my next door neighbor
That was my first garden.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I knew that our neighbor had a little backyard garden, and that was really important. And she was taking care of her
cousin.
And she had a little backyard garden. They called me Bo Crews. And so the local people, everybody knew me as Henry Crews in Chicago, but when I came home, I was Bo Crews. And that was one of the biggest problems, trying to readjust to being in my rural town, my hometown. Anyway, she gave me some tomatoes and said I could take as many tomatoes as possible. And when I realized that backyard garden, what she had done, she had created this beautiful tapestry of vegetables and stuff that she had grown with just a little grub hoe. Just one little grub hoe, she did that. And she told me that if she had more land, she could grow more. And at that time, my thought was, okay, it's a business. That I got an empty lot that you can now grow, and then I will plow it up for you. You can grow as much stuff you want to grow on my lot. And that was my way of knowing that I was going to get whatever it took, because she was growing everything. And so we plowed it up, and that was the day after the 4th of July, 2014.
Yes.
And that started our garden, and we call it a community garden.
And I don't know about you all, but oftentimes when you have community gardens, there's no community. They will come later to collect, but when the work is being done, they're nowhere to be seen. But it was a community garden.
And So I guess in 2 months or about 3 months, this thing was flourishing. The young lady had really helped. Ardis decided she didn't know anything about farming. She says that she was brought up with farming, but she didn't really know anything about farming. And so she was out there with this young lady and another community person, a neighbor of ours, and they really grew that garden. It was a community garden, and tell them what happened with it, what you put in.
It was absolutely wonderful. That's all that I can say about it. It was transforming. And immediately people kept showing up. Now I was trying to figure out why on earth would people keep showing up to this, because I had seen bigger gardens than what we had. But they kept showing up. And one of the things I think that was very important that made people show up, we were a little agricultural spot in the middle of a little city there in Henderson.
Only
North
15,000
Carolina
people
is
in this
big
town.
agriculture. We're an agricultural state. And there we are in the city growing something that people are looking at.
It got so big that the community people started asking about, well, the city council member, the county commissioner, county said that we need to have a little open house to let people know, because what was happening, the corporate extension office, because we didn't know anything about farming, this is a community garden, and they kept telling us all kinds of ideas what we ought to have. So we got a beehive, we had bees.
Yeah, they say we should have bees.
So we set up 3 beehives, and we had a guy that came in, he set up the bees, and I didn't know anything about doing it. And then we had
worms.
Yeah,
now, I gotta stop.
We had a worm farm.
He started a worm farm. So I come home one day and he says, the worms came in, they're in the kitchen.
I'd ordered,
He said, I had to put some water in there. So I went to people around the corner at the worms, okay? And I went in and these things had exploded and they're falling all over my kitchen cabinet and all over the floor.
I had a telephone call.
He was on the telephone call and he tells me to go get the worms. Well, y'all know we about to have less than what we started with if I got to get them.
We had a little worm farm. We put them all in there. And I was trying to do everything we could to this community garden. And what I really wanted to look at was all the kinds of ways we did chickens. So that's something I really wanted. When I moved home, I wanted to have chickens. And so I bought.
They sell eggs at the grocery store.
I built a little chicken coop, and I had 10 chickens and one rooster. And I was so excited about that because people from the university would come, all people would come by and visit our little farm, and they called it
Well, later on, well, now let me tell you all, we came back to the old neighborhood, okay? The old neighborhood. And so you are what you call yourself. So what we quickly did as this garden got popular, we call it an agri-hood. So it rounded up a whole lot of stuff and moved it out. Not the chemical, but we did move it out because
we had drug dealers across the street, and that was a big problem. And when all the attention started coming to us, coming to see our community garden, somehow people just moved out, and that was a beautiful thing. The real deal of what happened was that people telling us things. We had a aquaponics system. Because I didn't know anything. I'd done catfish farming in Mississippi. I'd invested in it. I didn't know anything about it. I invested in catfish farming in Mississippi. So I knew about farming. We got a concrete pond.
We didn't have catfish. We had some leftover koi and some goldfish.
Goldfish and stuff we put in there, but we were going to grow. We were going to grow tomatoes and stuff on this the concrete pond.
And they looked cute. It was growing well.
And tell them about the pond. It was about 6 by 4, 6 feet by 4.
Mm-hmm.
There was a.
It was kind of like a retention pond, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, but it came out. It was really. We got it from a concrete place, and
you're talking about the hydroponics. Yeah. It was a septic tank. So when you first get the septic tank, it's whole. It doesn't have the holes in it. So that's what we were using, a septic tank. Everybody knows about. It's much smaller than about a half of this table, or maybe 3/4 of the table.
So the corporate extension director always said, well, we were going to have. We did our little aquaponics program, and we were growing stuff in there. He says, well, I'm going to take you to Virginia State. And Virginia State got they are growing catfish in little ponds. I said, we want to go and see that. So we had about 5 women, the little group we had together. We all went to Virginia State to see this pond. Now that's when I told him that we already had a pond and we were doing aquaponics. And I convinced the
That was
dean,
a septic tank.
Yeah, the dean to share some of his catfish with us. And so in the process, we were going to have a partnership. That was the first real partnership we had, other than corporate extension, that they were going to now bring us some of the catfish out of that pond, and we were going to have a partnership with Virginia State. And what actually happened was that the process of setting up this, we were going to have open house.
Open house, yeah. Let's mention that when we were at Virginia State, we saw hydroponics also.
Yeah.
And I told you we do everything we see. So we went home, we set up an hydroponic operation also. All you need is some good PVC pipes and a thingy so you can put some holes in there. And boom, we had hydroponics.
And so we had a big open house, and what happened after the open house, we had people from all over, the corporate extension people, USDA folks came.
All kinds. I mean,
I don't know,
listen, the head of farm services for USDA came to our little open house. That's crazy. And the second person in charge, and the regional person, the mayor, the city council, the county commissioners, everybody you could think of. We had representation from about 4 colleges and the community colleges.
So we, to do our open house.
Oh, back up. Catfish.
Yeah. So we the day before the open house, Virginia State brought a truck out.
A big tanker.
About 40 catfish, this big, right?
Now let me just say to you all, we had aquariums in Chicago, but we were excited. We were just excited. We didn't realize.
40 catfish this big, and
in
they
the
put them in
septic tank.
a little tank. And that was the day before the open house.
Yes.
Now I had gone to USDA to try to get this
greenhouse.
This greenhouse, and they told me I couldn't get it. And you all know the problem you have, because I went to NRCS, and they said, well, you got to have a farm number and a crop, a growing
season.
Growing season. Mm-hmm. And we had a growing season, but we didn't have a farm number. Because all we were a community, just a little, we were really more than a backyard farm. We're just a garden. And so I went to Farm Service Administration, and I wanted to get, this was in 2014, I wanted to get a farm number. And they told me we couldn't get a farm number because you got to have 10 acres, 10 acres or more to qualify as a farm. When in 2014, the Farm Bill had come out, and one of the things about that was that they allowed you to have backyard farms. You could have
a farm in a building. There were lots of
urban farming,
mushroom
all of that.
farms that popped up.
But in the rural community, none of those people at at Farm Service Administration knew anything about this. Mm-hmm. And so they told us we had to be 10 acres to do it. I forgot to tell you this community garden is less than an acre.
Oh yes, it's less than an acre.
And that became, and so after the open house, all of the press was there, everybody came to look at it.
Talking about press, we had these catfish, and they were flipping and flopping all over the place, and everybody wanted to get a picture with the catfish. We had this big net, and so folks are getting these catfish up, and their picture is on the paper. So the next day, there are 2 things on the front of the newspaper: the Daily Dispatch, the name of the newspaper, and us. And so you got all these different pictures, the chief of police holding catfish in the net.
So people just started talking about this, and it happened to be the head of rural development, Farm Service Administration.
Former Congressman Bob Etheridge.
And so he's now the still head of Farm Service. And he said, give these people a farm number.
Mm-hmm. So now the newspaper named us out, the 3 young ladies that were working, and they called us farmers. Now understand, I had worked over 30 years as an administrator in a college, always had a title. So right now I was Mrs. Henry Crews. no other title. So I'm like,
There's nothing wrong with that.
hey, well, so I said, I'll try out this Miss Farmer kind of a thing. And so, you know, it was okay. I was going to be a farmer. But I'll tell you something. I got bit by the bugs in the garden. So I was no longer a name in only. I received the contagious virus of loving the land and loving the farm.
You see our high tone, we keep talking. So the next day, I went to Farm Service Administration. And those people that were there when Bob Etridge said give them a farm number, they were already there at the open house.
The regional people.
Yeah, I went there the next day and got me a farm number. They carried me through some changes at first, but see, the problem is the head of Farm Service Administration that said give you a farm number, so I had to go through the politics that you normally go when you go into Farm Service Administration. Initially, they kind of poo-pooed me and didn't want to deal with it, but now the head of Farm Service Administration said give them a farm number, so now we go in, and I didn't even have to bring in the ownership of the land. They just went on with the GSI or something and pulled that up and get it all done. We had it done in 15 minutes. I go across the hall to NRCS, because they were there at the open house too. NRCS and said, well, now I want to apply for this high tunnel, you know. And so they fill out the application, but then they explained to us that it was a process that it may take, you know, 8 or 9 months before you get it, because you had to get
And
approved.
some folks, it takes a couple of years.
Yeah.
So how quick did we get it?
Well, let's talk about what happened. And this is really important for people to know that in 2014, North Carolina had sent back about $400,000 of its money for high tunnels because they didn't have anybody applying for organic high tunnels. And when we found that out, our decision was that we were going to apply for organic high tunnels. So we had our next door neighbor who had the backyard garden said, well, they want one too. So we really applied for 6 of them. We had 6 little women that all came together, and we applied for 6.
The Southern Female Farmers Association, we became SOFA.
We call it SOFA. And so we applied for 6 high tunnels under organic high tunnels, and we were able to get it approved. And so it was so unique how that took place, because that kind of set the tone for what we were going to be. So it almost put us in a position where we had to now be organic because we had organic high tunnels.
So let me just stop you for a second, Crews, because now we are 2 days past the open house. And we go out in the garden to survey and to just look and to celebrate and be a part of, and there's no flipping and flopping. And we walk over to the septic tank and nothing is happening, and we stuck the net in, and they all just kind of started floating to the top.
Well, we forgot aeration. We didn't know that.
We were excited.
And so,
we got big trash bags, and we put them in the bags right away and got rid of them. And as soon as we did, the mayor's car pulled up again full of people because they were coming to see the catfish. And so they're looking at us, they're like, we want to fish for catfish. And we're like, well, you know, they came from the university, and we had to harvest them for a science project. So they accepted that.
And so we went back to learning how to really do aquaponics, and that taught us something, you know, because it was a learning experience, but you don't think about those kinds of things when you're trying to do all the things we were doing, but it was a learning experience.
First lesson, curb your excitement.
So I'm a business person, so that's what I did for 30 years, and I knew that now we got a farm, I needed to do something. How are we going to make some money with this farm? And there was a program at the community college teaching you about business plans. And I knew that we needed to have a business plan for our soon-to-be organic farm. And so the young lady was one of the persons participating as a farmer, the third farmer.
Yeah.
I asked her, she did taxes, and I knew that you need to have a 5-year plan for business plan. I need somebody to help me because I'm business, but I didn't know anything about financing, right? So she agreed to come and take a part in the class, and they gave us a scholarship to participate in this program. And the unique thing about it, we wrote this business plan up in we in rural North Carolina, And our vision was, and we had 15,000 people in our town, and our vision was that we were going to have to grow what we were going to grow in our little farm and then sell it in Raleigh or Durham, some of the urban cities. And that was our marketing plan. And that we were going to be organic because that allowed us to make more money, that's what I wanted to do, for our produce that we grew. And so in the process, Carolina Farm Steward Association, which is similar to Oak now, they are organic certificate, organic group in both North Carolina and South Carolina. They were very instrumental in helping us do a CAP plan, conservation activity plan, and helping do the organic certification plan. Because we didn't know anything about all the stuff you had to do, but they were able to help us. And I say that because, you got Oak here, and they are so important. How do you utilize, a community-based, a not-for-profit organization that can be an asset to a community, to a farmer? Because there's no way that we were going to, at our age, her age, that we were going to sit down, because she was doing the farming right. We were going to do the whole organic certification plan. And out of the newspaper, people started talking about what we were doing because we became organically certified. We are the only, and still are the only organic farm in the county.
But let's talk for just 1 second about what drove us to being organic. We said our daughter had passed away and she had been sick, and we fed her body. We fed those ailments that she had. We fed her limbs. So I was familiar with the fact that food was medicine. And as we began to work on the land, one of the things that happened to me is that my ancestors began to feel me, and they talked to me. And I thought about my grandmother all the time, and one of the things that she said to me is that you are what you eat. So that's called medicine to me. So that was the premise that we wanted to deal with. And in this little bitty little community that we live in, 15,000 people with 2 dialysis centers and a prevalence of diabetes.
2 dialysis centers.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, kidney disease, a lot of diseases that could be positively affected by consuming good food and food that is designated for the particular ailments. And so that was one of my driving forces, to make sure things were clean. I didn't want a bunch of pesticides and all of that kind of stuff. So we started to learn about how you grow and how some people grow with fertilizer. They just grow with the fertilizer. So of course your food is consumed with these chemicals. And some people grow from the earth. So you tend to your earth, and the earth grows the vegetables. And that's who we are as organic people. We are stewards of the land, and we're cultivating that land and caring for the land and feeding back to the land.
And let the soil grow the vegetables. One of the things, so we finally got approval. Well, this is really important for y'all, because we're in the city, and we're a farm in the city. We were the first farm in the city, and the city didn't know how to deal with us, because now we got these high tunnels that they got. So we in less than an acre of land now. The high tunnel was 39 by 71.
36 by 72.
Yeah, and the problem was that the high tunnel was too big to fit into our lot. And so we've gotten approval for 6 of them, and all of us had small lots. And so, no, 2 of us had small lots. And so I had to meet with the city and the city officials to see how we could do this. And so the only solution was that we had to cut it in half, cut our high tunnel in half. So it gave us 2 high tunnels, 30 by 39, which was really good. We didn't know how unique that was, but it allowed us to put 2 of them in our little farm. And so the other problem we had was that you had to have a building permit. Well, in a farm, you don't really have to do that, but here in the city, they wanted us to do a building permit, and talked about electricity. And we said, well, you don't have electricity, you don't have to do anything. But we had to meet with the building, and they carried us through it was like 5 months just getting approval for it. And so
we
it
had
wasn't
to help
easy.
them to write the policy for the city because that's something they never even thought about. So, and having high tunnels and urban farming, urban agriculture in a city is not new. It was just new to the little town that we were living
And
in.
it was difficult because we had to go and look at other cities and show the city council what it took to put it in there. So we had to present to the city council our plan to put this high tunnel in this little lot in the city. And in the process of doing that, Ardis and the other young lady, both of them made a presentation. Because I thought it wouldn't be good for me to go in there because they would all buy it if I told them. But I let Ardis and Marion go in and make the presentation. So what happened was the city council kept saying, well, what are we voting on? And they said, well, we're voting on this high tunnel. And then they approved the high tunnel. Then we went back because they had to give us a building, they had to ignore the building permit and ignore the, I forgot what it's called, to show that you're going to have a facility put on a lot.
A building permit, and the code permit.
Yeah. And so they approved us to not have to pay that. That was like $300-something. Anyway, we go back for the approval of that, and they said, well, what are we voting on? This is the city council. What are we voting on? They had 200 empty lots in the city that the city hadn't done anything with. And people were complaining that what you going to do with all those city lots? And so the city council said, why don't we give them a lot, to set up their farm with? And so in the process of doing that, the unique thing about that, we had an acting city manager and an acting county manager, and these empty lots are off the tax roll because people have left, and so the city and the county own 200-some empty lots. They agreed to give us 15 lots to do farming on, which really is unbelievable because most of the urban areas don't have this. Well, I appreciate it. It ain't that easy though, 'cause they just said it because they were acting city manager and acting county manager. Most rural towns, people don't work. These municipalities don't work together, and so it was hard getting the county and the city to agree to anything. But because they were having so much pressure with these 200 lots, it was easy to give us 4 or 5 of them to take them off the rolls. So the city said, well, we want 15, and the county said, well, no, let's give them 10. So they agreed to give us 10. That sounded easy at first, but it took 3 years, and they still haven't turned it over to us.
So, Crews, I'm going to interrupt you because the truth of the matter is when you're having fun, time goes fast. So let me just speed along a little bit. Since he's so old, he doesn't move that well. So,
I hope y'all looking at all of
So one of the things that happened is that we began to travel all over the state of North Carolina, going with people with small farms to USDA and standing in that crossfire for them.
Helping them
because
walk through this
everywhere
process.
you went, they would tell people, no, you got 9 acres, you can't have a farm because you got to have 10 acres. So we stood there. It came to the point where you go in some USDA offices in some of the counties and you hear in the background, they here. So we enjoyed being there. We became so involved in almost...
We had relationships with the head now of Farm Service Administration.
Oh yeah, we call them and we tell them we're in such and such county and we're having problems. Give them a call. So they just call and it's like, well, I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing. And they go, them cruisers are here, And so he would instruct them on what to do. Now, we got so involved in helping everybody, we quickly realized that we were not going to be a production farm, we were going to be a demonstration farm, and so that is what we became. And as I say, we work with people in getting farm numbers and work with people in navigating that place called USDA. You are farmers, you know what we're talking about. It is not that easy. One of the things we decided is that if you're not at the table, you're probably what they're eating at the table. And when it comes to agriculture in the rural communities, city people who walk on cement all the time will sit there and make decisions. They talk about the urban-rural divide, and when you walk into the room, there is no rural person in there. So here come these cruises, and we stop everything and make them go back and have that conversation.
We are unapologetically rural. Everything we do and talk about is about rural. I think that's important to understand that we took a stand that we were going to speak to the ruralness. We are in eastern North Carolina, and most of North Carolina is 100 counties, and 85 of those counties are rural counties. And so it's important that that these urban the ideas and stuff that really doesn't affect us or we can't get through, that we had to become some type of voice for the people that we were dealing with. And rural became our calling card, if you will.
So as we proceeded, we learned a new word, and it was called agritourism. We didn't realize all this visitation that we were having was, in fact, agritourism. People were always coming to see, and you would think in agricultural South, everybody would be familiar with all types of farming techniques and trends, but they were excited to see all of the things that we were doing. Now, meanwhile, we told you at the beginning we had this not-for-profit, and there were like 4 pillars of success that we had, and one of those pillars was about food. Looking at the health of the community that we were working with.
Let me tell them before that, I know but I really want to tell them about our high tunnel and how we got it. Because that was, you all are probably going to be experiencing, I know we met yesterday in the high tunnel and talked about that. And that was a very informative meeting that we had yesterday at the high tunnel. And one of the problems we had was I had to decide on, because I didn't know anything about high tunnels, right? I just got an approval for them. I got 2 of them now, and I got to figure out how to do it. And so I was calling around trying to figure out, you get all the people that normally call you once you get approved, you get all kinds of calls from people telling you that they can sell you the high tunnel and they got a price for it and they can work with you to get it. And so in my due diligence, one of the things I found was 4 season tools. 4 season tools, that's all they do is high tunnel.
A lot of you met Joel, who's
no,
here.
No, this was
that was a high tunnel, okay.
And so they were so impressed with what we were doing. I'm from North Carolina. It just so happened that the guy that owns 4 Season Tools went to Duke, right? So he was excited about coming back home and working with us. We had 6 high tunnels, so he was gonna make a big pretty penny because he was gonna work with us and do all this stuff. So he sent his father, who's an engineer who lives in Boston, down to actually stay with us. He stayed at my house, and he was gonna help us put these with 4 high tunnels together in a week.
So we went back to Carolina Farm Stewardship, and we set it up as a class. And let me just say, we had lots and lots of classes. Selfishly, unselfishly, we had the classes. We didn't know much, so we weren't just having the classes for everybody else, we were having classes for ourselves. But for that, the construction of the high tunnel, we set up a class. We ended up with 40 people. Y'all know, didn't too much high tunnel get established, but we had some good classes.
For 4 high tunnels in 1 week, it took us 6 months to put these 2 high tunnels together we had at our place. So I just want you to know that it was a cute idea having a class, but the class, none of us knew anything about developing high tunnels. And so we got the high tunnels done, and we got organic certification. And one of the things that happened was that what we're going to grow in there, we had the young lady from the school system, a nutritionist from a charter school came to us, saw us in the paper and came over to visit us and said that she would buy everything that we grew if we were GAP certified. Now we organic certified, and we trying to do everything people tell us to do. And we didn't know what GAP certification was, good agricultural practice. But she said if we were GAP certified.
A good farming tool. So as soon as they tell you something you never heard of before, you turn your back and look it up.
So she said she would buy everything and change her menus in the school system for all the products we were growing. And so we now had to find out about GAP certification. And that was another problem because we knew all of the work that has to do in the organic certification. Now to be GAP certified. Now we had a not-for-profit organization that could fund the GAP certification if we got it. And at that time it was like $700, which really wasn't that expensive. And we got GAP certified. And that was a beautiful thing because we wanted to do that. We were GAP certified and organic certified. And now we're talking about what do we grow we had 30-some produce that we were growing in
all of our farms, our small farms.
That we
yes.
were qualified to
Organically.
go organic and GAP. And so I needed to know how to grow in a high tunnel. And so doing research again, this book with John,
don't ask me. John
Frontier,
something like that, yeah.
And
the market farmer.
The market farmer, that became part of our Bible. And then there was Elliot Coleman,
yes.
who is the head of, the godfather of organic farming. So I would read those books, and we saw that in the market, they started talking about this walk-behind tractor. And I said, well, we need a walk-behind tractor because the high tunnel we had, you couldn't put a John Deere in there. And I said, well, what can we do? So we need a walk-behind tractor. We got a little grant that we had, and I called this guy named Joel up at
somewhere here in Kentucky.
Earth Tools in Kentucky. And I said, Joel, because I'm a businessman now, I said, Joel, I got about $12,000. What can I do? I said, I need to buy a walk-behind tractor. And he explained to me, this is Joel that's out there, he explained to me what it was going to be and probably going to cost a little more than that, and I needed all these implements. And I said, well, I need to come up to Kentucky to see what this walk-behind tractor looked like, because I'm not going to spend that kind of money for something I ain't never seen. And so I took 4 guys that were doing small farming, working with us, I knew to do small engine repair. We came up to Kentucky and met with Joel, and Joel told me that if I bought 2 of them, I could be a dealer. That's real important now, because that's business. If I bought 2 of those tractors, I could be a dealer. And that means I could buy them at wholesale price, at dealer price, as opposed to a regular price. So that was an incentive for me. So I brought the guys up and we trained, and he trained us on how to operate this walk-behind tractor. Now, our colors are green, and I studied this thing, and I know he had the BCS that he has out there. Kind of made me upset because we bought the Grillo. Now the
Beautiful green.
Yeah, the Grillos are much
Green
prettier.
Rural Redevelopment Organization, are not for profit.
Yeah, it's a much prettier.
Say what you're gonna say, cause I'm getting ready to take over.
Okay.
Time is closing.
All right. So we do a Grillo. We are the dealer for a Grillo in North Carolina and South Carolina, and Grillo's what we push. And I'm kind of upset. I asked him today why he didn't bring a Grillo. He said all he had in the showroom was a BCS. I guess because all the Grillos are selling. That's So go ahead, Ardis.
So listen, we're going to move along because time is passing. So what happened was we moved all around in our cities and county areas, helping people to establish farms. We established, of course, our farm, which was the first farm, and right now is the only organic farm in our little city. We also established a city farm, which was organic. We established the first farms in Greenville, North Carolina, which is one of our larger metropolitan areas. We set up a mobile farmers market and did a beautiful, what we call platinum farmers market at Vidant Hospital in Greenville. That's one of our
They wanted us to set up a farmers market just for the employees, 6,000 employees of the hospital. And that was really a unique thing because now we had another place to sell our produce.
So again, as I continue to take over, I do a lot of taking over, y'all, because he loves to talk. So we created what we call Wellness on Wheel, which has been our vehicle of delivering food to people and what we continue to do. We mentioned that we had a not-for-profit, and so food has become the driving force in our not-for-profit. What we declared is that whatever we do, food is going to be first. So during the COVID period, we continued to deal with food. We worked with a agency that cooked food, and we partnered. It's called Green Spicy Gourmet.
Spicy Green Gourmet.
We're all green. And we
did frozen meals.
We did the summer feeding program and sent out about 33,000 meals to our community.
That's our refrigerated truck that we deliver on. We do our frozen meals.
We also worked in the COVID. And so when everybody is doing testing in COVID, we're delivering food and information to people about how to work with your immune system as you test. And ultimately, we were asked to do the testing ourselves and to do the shots ourselves. So little old me ran the medical unit for about 2 years as we continue to do
We got
testing.
a big medical van too. We had a big medical van that had, we were doing testing on and security.
And on that van, of course, there's food. And after COVID, what do you have? You have mental health issues. So now we got a mental health van. Well,
RV.
you need to eat for that too. Everything you've got in life, you need to eat. So we continue to process and to deliver information and education as it relates to eating with that van. We now participate in a program which was funded by the federal government to the state of North Carolina in the tune of
$600 million.
Which is called the Healthy Opportunities Pilot
Project.
And that program looks at the premise of if a person is to be healthy, they need food, housing, transportation, and mental health. So we work on the mental health side and, of course, on the food side. We've developed a huge delivery system. I have 7 or 8 trucks and at least 3 cars on the road every day delivering food.
Counties. We deliver to 11 counties every day, some 1,000 people every week that we are feeding at home. As Medicaid recipients, we're feeding at home. So we've grown a lot, and that's our Food is Medicine program. It's so important to understand. I think people are going to be talking about that, and we thought that was something unique that we were doing some 5 years ago, and now it's a big thing. Blue Cross Blue Shield funds us for our Food and Medicine program. The Wallace Center funds us. KB Reynolds Foundation funds us. So we've been able to parlay our community-based organization and our farming together. And we now hire a lot of farmers. We buy a lot of food from the farmers.
We aggregate.
Yeah.
Because we can't do it. So we work with farmers in 2 regions of North Carolina, central North Carolina and eastern North Carolina. We're aggregating the food to get the food out.
Similar to what, last night we went to the hub, the line hub, which is, I'm really excited about because if you all haven't been, they're the ones that fed us yesterday for lunch. And locally, you need to go and see that because they have about 15 or 20, probably 30 farmers, all local. Now they have to be GAP certified. That's the other thing now. They are GAP, but they can sell other produce, organic and stuff that they can sell. They have their own grocery store. And the unique thing about that, I wanted to say this because I think locally you need to see what's being done locally. And the unique thing about them is they set up a pizza and beer establishment. And that was the gimmick to get people in. So everybody wanted to buy pizza and beer, so they come in and buy pizza and beer. And you see all of the produce, all the stuff that's being, the pizza and the beer is made by local farmers. And then they have a little grocery store there that you can buy local stuff from. And I think that's unique, and that's something we're going to take back home because we just got donated to us a city bus from the hospital. And the hospital is no longer transporting people, so they donated us city bus, big, large city bus with everything on it, TV and everything on it. And so we're going to now make that our mobile grocery store.
So here I go again, take it over. As we begin to get ready to conclude, what we realize is that in everything we're doing, whether it's on the farming side or whether it's on the not-for-profit side, there is one word that becomes very, very important, and that word is to cultivate, a cultivation. And so when we think of cultivation being key, if you're looking at farming, you need to cultivate a plan. You gotta have a plan. You just can't go out there all willy-nilly and think you're gonna have any kind of success. What are your objectives? What are your goals? What are your objectives? What is the niche that you're gonna work with? In North Carolina, we got a highway called 95. On the east side of 95, they like cabbage collards. On the west side of 95, they like plain old college. So you have to learn your plan has to address the market that you're going to be dealing with. You got to deal with a plan. You got to deal with a budget. You've got to cultivate your education. That's continuous. Cultivate your education. You've got to cultivate relationships. Relationships are so important. We met the Browns. There they are over there. Stick your hands up, Browns.
Lynn
And WB.
WB Brown
WB.
from
We've
Georgia.
met them everywhere we go. We make sure we connect to someone. And you run into people all over the United States as you travel.
And Clifford, the guys who doing rice.
Oh, yes, yes. So you got to cultivate those relationships. And so when you're doing all of that and you begin to cultivate the land, you've got to do it with extreme care, extreme love, with a passion that is unknown of, that runs deep, that makes you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, and that drives you all day long. It's not always money. Sometimes it's some dark, weary days, but the compassion and the commitment is there, and you continue to cultivate that. And when you cultivate that, you create a thriving community that is cultivated by farms and by food. And what is food? Food is life. So that means that we who are farmers and who are caring for the lands, who are the stewards, we carry life. And so make sure you do that. Thank you so much.
Ask me about community gardens and backyard gardens. Make sure you write that up on your thing.
Well, how'd I do? All right, so we'll get that Slido QR code back up so that you can add any thoughts, questions, comments that are bubbling up, so that you can upvote the questions that you do see on your phone that you most want to hear. And then all those support staff, Kentucky State University folks, Linnell, et cetera, anybody who's helping with that, stand up so that if somebody wants to add a question and doesn't have a phone or doesn't want to use it, you can add to that. And I'm going to get my computer because that's where those questions are. So we've got a few questions and a few minutes to cover them because there's another wonderful lunch that we have today for you on the other side of this. The question that's risen to the top, had the most votes, is what is the most valuable lesson you would impart on a young or beginning farmer? We've got about 85% of the conference participants, to our knowledge, fall into that category of beginning farmer, less than 10 years doing it. And so what is that most valuable lesson?
Okay. We call our micro market farmers. And so it's really important, we piggyback off of market farming, is that we don't really put anything in the ground unless we got a sale for it, a contract for it. And I think for beginning farmers, you need to do your due diligence to find out what can generate, even if you're growing for yourself, what can generate the most income, because there's no use being in it. And even if you are just growing for yourself, you really need to make sure that you're growing stuff that can complement what your lifestyle is. And I say, if it's farming to generate income, do your due diligence and don't just plant. Because see, there's too many of us older farmers that they grow because they love growing. And that's one unfortunate thing, is that we really haven't made a lot of money, and that you're growing because you love growing. And you really need to grow. There's so many opportunities out here now for people to generate income, and it's not just, the unfortunate thing for small and beginning farmers, the only avenue right now you have is a farmer's market, and it shouldn't be there. There are restaurants, there are places, and we talked about, there are places that are looking to get fresh vegetables, and you need to do your research and to find out what's available in your community and what their needs are.
So I would say, make a plan, stick to your plan, change your plan when it is necessary. educate yourself, and build relationships. Find that person who would become your mentor and walk through that journey with them.
So the next question that the audience is wanting to hear and a good answer for, what is the best way to encourage participation in USDA, NRCS, for example, programs in underserved communities?
Well, you need to know, and I think most of you have had experience with USDA, that they won't tell you anything. They can't tell you anything. And so you really need to do your due diligence to find out what kinds of programs exist, unless you're in a workshop. Now, I'll be honest with you, USDA would give you all kinds of information in a workshop setting. But if you go into any of the NRCS or rural development or Farm Service Administration, they just can't tell you something. You got to know something to ask for. And so I would say do your due diligence before you go in there and find, and what I just said, trying to find a mentor. There are people that's already traveled that road and gone through there. Use places like Oak that can help you get into systems that can help be a mentor for you because you're going to need some help. And it's so frustrating. You go in, and I know it, and people turn you around because they don't really, a lot of them may not know the answers to the stuff that you want. And because of that, they may turn you off, and you just need to know be persistent in what you want. And this is a good forum to learn what you can do and what's possible to do. Because when we had to go through this process of the city, having a farm in the city, or getting a farm, a lot of people, and that's the other thing, farm numbers. There are a lot of farms that exist that haven't gotten a farm number. And I think it's really important for you to know the advantage of having that farm number, because everyone here is eligible for the insurance. You know, what's it called? Insurance for produce. You can get insurance for your bees. You can get insurance for hemp. You can get insurance for everything now.
Based on your level, sometimes that insurance is free.
Yeah. But you gotta have a farm number to qualify for it.
So again, I mentioned before about sitting at the table. Now, first of all, this little thing is handy. Go to these places called Google and ask them a question. These phones are so smart now, you can ask a pretty stupid question and get a good answer to it. So ask the questions. The other thing is find someone who is sitting at the table, or prepare yourself to sit at the table. When it comes to farm services, the seats on the farm services are sometimes appointed. People are elected within farm services to come in. Crews is a farm service member.
I sit on the farm service board.
And I am county elected soil and water conservation. I am the only woman sitting on my board. And of course, I'm the only person of color sitting on the board. You gotta sit at the table.
Now, it's important you realize that in most cases, these boards are set up by large farmers, or housed with large farmers that are voted in, because they know everybody and they know how to parlay to get voted in. But Farm Service Administration and our NRCS all have to put women on there. They have to put minority on there. They have to put people of color. And so if you find on your Farm Service board that you don't have anybody to represent you, you can petition, get Oak to help petition, to get them served. So you may not be a voting member, but you don't have this. It doesn't matter whether you're voting any longer, because that was like 10 years ago. You needed to be you need to be able to vote on these things. Now you need to be at the table where you can influence the vote that happens. And that's so important when you know all the things that's going on, especially with small farmers, with produce farmers. You know, most of the farmers don't even register their produce. And so that's another problem, being able to register what you grow. And most farmers don't think about that. But that's so important, because with the weather it is and the climate change and stuff, things are happening to your crops. And you need to be able to get some type of support for it. And being a part of that is important.
You have a very innovative organic organization here. When I first got started, I joined Carolina Farm Stewardship Association and was asked to be a member. And I was the only woman sitting at the table, and I followed the one and only black person who was sitting at the table. So while I was sitting there, I was the only black person. Their thing to me was, I want you to be comfortable. My thing to them was, well, I'm here to make you uncomfortable and change the way this table looks. So you gotta find a way of being there.
And Oak gives you an opportunity, the university gives you an opportunity to, they have voice and they can open some doors for you. But you need to do your due diligence to find out, this is what I want, this is the role I want to play. And you need to be able to play a role from a political standpoint, because we don't have, the farm service, the farm bill doesn't speak to small farmers. The farm bill doesn't speak to minority farmers. The farm bill, you really need to be looking at how politics is being played with GAP certification, with organic certification, all these things that you need to be able to, at a place to play a role in it. I'm sorry. Y'all got to stop me.
No, I was telling him to change the slide so there'd be a little something more to look at. I'm sorry that we don't have time to get to all the questions. There are some great questions on here, and I encourage you, these fabulous people are going to be with us through the end of tomorrow's programming. So today, tomorrow, find them. They will be happy to talk with you, and you may have to stand in line. Ardis and Henry, we are so grateful. Thank you.